We have our first speaker, Dr. Akhmatova, Kyrgyzstan, and so I am very pleased to introduce her and have her present on her topic, and she will, of course, go into more detail. But she is the director of the Rural Development Fund in Kyrgyzstan, and we'll be talking about sustainable livelihood options for high-altitude mountain people. Over to you, Kuliapa Akhmatova.
You're still on mute. Miss Kulipa, we haven't heard you. Your sound, please.
Unmute.
Sorry.
It's okay. It happens.
You're good now. You're good.
Sorry. Sorry. Dear participants of the online summer school on mountain ecosystems and resource management, dear friends, I am Kulipa Akhmatova, a director of Public Fund, Rural Development Fund, NGO based in Kyrgyzstan. I am glad to be here and would like to thank the Grassroots Institute for giving this excellent opportunity to share about some of good local initiatives of mountain ecosystem development. Second slide, please. First of all, I would like to give you some half-minute brief of our organization. Our organization is called Rural Development Fund, which is a non-profit, non-governmental research organization established in 2003. Our mission is to support initiatives based on local needs and aimed at poverty alleviation and sustainable rural development, and we focus on conducting applied research on various aspects on rural development and implement rural development projects that contribute to policy development and decision making at the local and national levels. We work in improving rural livelihoods by reviving traditional knowledge and applying innovative solutions. Today, I am honored to deliver a lecture on sustainable livelihood option for mountain people. My lecture can be outlined as follows. In the first part, I will focus on general information on mountain ecosystem and local livelihoods, where I will give you a main definition. Then I will talk about traditional ecological knowledge as one of the key factors of sustainability of livelihoods. Then I will speak about indigenous livestock, husbandry, where I will share with you RDF's findings and experience on revitalizing indigenous livestock breeds, such as Kyrgyz horse breed and yak breeding in Kyrgyzstan. So, mountains are one of key ecosystems in the world. Mountains are a home to 1/10 of the world population. Mountains cover 27% of the Earth's land surface and are found on all continents. Mountain ecosystems provide up to 80% of the world's freshwater resources for domestic, agriculture, and industrial consumption. Mountains are early indicators of climate change, as evidenced by rapid glacier melting and loss of snow cover, whose implications go far beyond mountain boundaries. Mountain ecosystem host approximately 20% of terrestrial biodiversity, as well as vital genetic resources for key crops and livestock. Land use change and climate change are seriously threatening in this global asset. Mountain ecosystem provide vital environmental services and resources for humans. Mountain communities are highly vulnerable to extreme weather events and natural disasters, including floods, landslides, and avalanches. And they are particularly affected by earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Mountain ecosystem are the source of energy, minerals, and recreational opportunities. Around 40% of mountain populations in developing and transition countries, about 300 million people is food insecure, with half of them suffering from chronic hunger. However, today we are witnessing the degradation of highland ecosystem and forest all around the world. We encounter deforestation and slow natural regeneration of forest, overgrazing causes with contamination of remote pastures and several degraded village pastures. Construction and mining disrupt of fragile mountain ecosystem with a poaching and uncontrolled harvesting of useful plants, which lead to biodiversity loss. And this type of degradation results in declining regulatory protection and provisional services of mountain ecosystems. People, including our local communities, those livelihoods depend on mountain ecosystem, become vulnerable to various environmental, social, and economical shocks, such as climate change, natural disasters, disease. Therefore, after much discussion, mountain issues are included in sustainable goals and emphasized the importance of mountains to humankind. Particularly, mountain issues are included in the CDG 6.6, CDG 15.1, and CDG 15.4, among other natural ecosystems. However, the 2030 agenda doesn't explicitly stress the needs and priorities of people living in mountains, mountain livelihoods. Now we approach to our main topic, sustainable livelihood option. And I would like to give you some definitions. So what is a livelihood? Frank Ellis defines a livelihood as activities, assets, and access that jointly determine the living gained by an individual or household. While other great researchers, Robert Chamber and Gordon Conway, explain it, livelihood as follows. A livelihood comprises the capabilities, assets, including both material and social resources, and activities required for a means living. A livelihood is sustainable when it can cope with the recovery from shocks and stresses, and maintain and enhance its capabilities and assets both now and in the future, whilst not undermining the natural resource base. For understanding the sustainability of livelihoods, of communities, of households, you can use Sustainable Livelihoods Framework. It's a tool for understanding how household livelihood systems interact with the external environment, both the natural environment and the political and institutional context. There are many approaches and frameworks of the sustainable livelihoods. However, I prefer to use the Sustainable Livelihoods Framework developed by DFID. The DFID defines a sustainable livelihood based on capabilities, assets, both material and social resources, and activities required for living. A livelihood is sustainable when it can cope with the recovery from stresses and shocks and maintain or enhance its capabilities and assets both now and in the future, while not undermining natural resources bases. Livelihoods can therefore be affected by external factors which increase their resilience and consequently reduce their vulnerability. This framework is adaptive. A researcher can adapt it depend on his or her research objective. There are also many options of this framework for instance, Sustainable Livelihood Framework by Oxfam, by UNDP, and many others. But I wouldn't spend much time on this. Rather, I would like to suggest you to read and explore by yourself. At the end of the lecture, I will give you links for further reading, and I strongly recommend you to get familiar with these frameworks. Livelihood strategy is an activity undertaken by smallholder household to provide a means of living. Here, a key goal of livelihood strategies is to ensure household economical and social security. Further, the mixed livelihood strategy is an approach for capturing the diversified means of raising household income. Under the livelihood strategies, the rural household always attempts to diversify their sources of income. They adopt survival strategies depending upon resource endowment and in the context of the policy and institutional framework. As already I mentioned earlier, mountains are the home for biodiversity, source of water and area where traditions are more or less preserved. However, living in mountains is very difficult due to mountain physical features, such as high altitude, severe mountains, climate conditions. There is a lot of limitation to build sustainable livelihoods. Also, the physical remoteness and territorial isolation limit access to basic necessary facilities and infrastructure, markets and services. And usually there is a limited available land for crop production. Also, usually due to high production and transport costs, mountain dwellers cannot compete with low and land producers. Another limitation for mountain communities is migration, which leads to labor shortage and loss of interest from youngsters. One of the major limitations are ecosystem degradation and resource depletion, mostly due to mining, commercial hunting, industrial resource use, and other commercial and industrial land use. Despite these limitations, there are many livelihood options. The most common sources of mountain livelihoods are livestock, agriculture, forestry, ecotourism, honey, handicrafts, and mountain herbs. Today, my colleagues will give you more elaborated lecture on this livelihoods option. So, as I said before, mountains are essential to communities, being home to more than 1 billion people in the world. And in order to preserve our mountain for ourselves, we need to follow sustainable development principles. To do this, we need innovative, sustainable living solutions, green technologies, and we also need to go back to our roots and to benefit from the traditional ecological knowledge of our ancestors. So, what is traditional knowledge, one, and why is it matter? According to Berkas, traditional knowledge is cumulative body of knowledge, practice, and belief, evolving by adaptive processes and handed down through generation by cultural transmissions about the relations of living beings, including humans, with one another and with their environment. In other words, traditional knowledge generally refer to knowledge system embedded in the cultural tradition of regional, indigenous, of social, or of local communities. And traditional ecological knowledge describes indigenous and local traditional knowledge of local natural resources and way of using them, which were proven in 100 years. By practicing extensive farming, mountain communities sensed their dependence on the natural vegetation cover as an important renewable resources and the need for careful pasture management. Today's pastoralists have generally preserved the economic and cultural tradition inherited from their fathers and grandfathers quite well. So, for more than 2 decades, the RDF has been researching and reviving traditional knowledge and has a good database and research result. For example, the pasture management database contains traditional knowledge on the assessment of pasture conditions, pasture use, and fodder preparation methods, etc. The promotion of Aboriginal animal husbandry today has clearly become an important resource in the survival and development of the world indigenous people. Recently, it has been actively placed on the agenda of international community, no longer just as a way to preserve the biocultural diversity on the earth for human reasons, but as one of the vital ways to return to a healthy, natural, ecological way of life for survival in general. The historical experience of the indigenous people of the Pamirs, Tian Shan, and Altai shows that the removal of even one aboriginal animal from an indigenous people's habitat led to disastrous consequences of many levels. This resulted in a cascade of deformation in spiritual and cultural identity, natural ecosystem, and the system of material support. Conversely, the return of aboriginal animals, or global terms, the revival of biodiversity, can have the same cascading effect of the consequences, natural and material well-being of people. RGF has been working on documenting and reviving the yak breeding in Kyrgyzstan. Here I would like to share with you some of findings of yak breeding. Kyrgyzstan's 90% of territory is mountains, and livestock husbandry is a significant branch of agriculture. For instance, in 2018, livestock products accounted for almost half of the total gross agriculture output, and most of half mountain pastures are available only for certain livestock types due to steepness of slopes, altitude, climatic, and weather conditions. Yaks are semi-wild animals favoring free grazing on distant pastures. The average temperature in yaks habitats in Kyrgyzstan is about +4 degrees, while winter temperatures in this place may fall as low as -40 degrees. Yaks are well adapted to living in harsh climatic conditions, and they inhabit high altitude areas with a harsh climate, where temperatures are below zero for more than 8 months of the year. These animals easily bear the cold and don't require insulated and sheltered housing. Yaks maintained in more severe weather conditions are less exposed to various diseases, and they are healthier and stronger. In our region, there are 5 main types of domestic yaks. They are Buryat yaks, Altai yaks, Mongolian yaks, Pamirian yaks, and Kyrgyz local yak breeds. Yak remain fairly free-living animals and can move from 30 to 70 kilometers a day looking for a grass or watering place. The only difficulty in yak maintenance is keeping them safe from wolves' attacks, particularly in winters. Yak breeding is very profitable because the yaks stay on the pasture forage without winter fodder. Yaks keeping cost is quite small. The main yak product is meat. Yak meat is healthy, nutritious, and organic products because yaks eat useful and medicinal herbs growing on the highland pastures and don't consume the additional feed. Yak milk had higher concentration of fat and better quality than that of domestic cows. But nowadays, yak milk produced in small quantities. The skin of yak as well as their wool is not valid on the market. The main reasons are complexity of processing, the unavailability of equipment for cleaning and processing. Despite to the indicated advantages, yak breeding is given less attention. There are numerous issues on yak breeding in Kyrgyzstan. There is quite a small amount of yak products produced. This is caused by difficulty to access to processing facilities or lack of processing facilities. Other main issue is loss of traditional knowledge and spiritual practices due to the lack of continuity of knowledge, which is maybe caused by migration and little attention to this source income. Due to this, the younger generation has little interest in living on pastures and continuing livestock breeding activities. There is one more slide on yak breeding. Here you see yak keeper from Kyrgyzstan reading a yak. The upper right photo is taken from Buryatia, Russia, Yakstin forest, and the lower right picture is a yak keeper Buryat family. So, in conclusion of this part, I would say that among the livestock animals, yaks more adapted to high altitude mountains, and our research revealed that yaks are crucial for maintaining and healthy ecosystem and enhancing climate resilience. The people and yak occupy an independent ecological niche, so these people shouldn't be displaced from their lands and territories. This community, economic and social system rely on this type of livestock. We have been facing growing challenges on reality and as a result of political, economical, climatic change. We're witnessing how seriously the world has changed over the past year, and the planet is changing, perhaps in some places forever. Amid climate change and its rapidly changing world during a pandemic, self-sustaining mountain communities are possible only in traditional ways. In fragile systems such as mountain areas, it's crucial to maintain ecological balance and natural purity. Traditional life preserves the natural balance and strengthens the resilience of indigenous societies as well. It mitigates the effects of climate change. Only by using traditional livelihoods we can achieve this. RDF also works in reviving another Aboriginal livestock breed, a Kyrgyz horse. Kyrgyz horse was the core of the Kyrgyz nomadic lifestyle and symbol of harmonic relationship between human and nature. Due to its genetic traits, the horse was the main means of load lifting and transportation on long distance, mountain and hard to travel routes. The Kyrgyz horse was also the source of many valuable products, household products, milk, meat, leather, horse carriages was used for barter and trade. Thanks to high intelligence and devotion to the human master and spiritual and cultural consequences of nomads, the horse was their friend and important part of their life. Aboriginal livestock breeding, local environmentally friendly and economical profitable production and products adapted to local ecosystem for hundreds or even thousands of years, part of local ecosystem, requires little effort on the part of livestock producers. Aboriginal livestock breeding based on traditional nomadic technologies. Aboriginal livestock breeding is gradually becoming attractive to farmers because of their high productivity. There are a few organizations among the RDF are working in research, documenting and reviving this knowledge, reviving Aboriginal livestock breed of horses. Thanks to these efforts, there is increased attention to Kyrgyz horse. Here in these slides, you can see the old pictures of Kyrgyz horse and some of current picture. We, the RDF, are still working in this direction. This process is difficult and resource demanding. However, we have to continue our effort in promoting and revitalizing this kind of sustainable option of livelihoods. Here, I would like to show some of publication, research, and project findings which can be found in RDF sites. In this slide, I would like to demonstrate for you some of historical photos of Kyrgyz horse and some of fresh pictures on this Aboriginal breed. I wouldn't stop on the features of the Kyrgyz horse. In the next slides, I provide in these slides I provide you some reading materials. Livehul's research is simple but complex, but it helps to you in deeper understanding of your communities. In my lecture, I gave you only the basics. For more, please read this literature. I tried to give you papers in open access. This is a picture of setting a bozy yurta, a traditional mobile house made of wooden carcass and covered by felt. I show you this picture because this demonstrates the complexity of our world. Bozy, how the different small parts can be joined and made a useful, beautiful, and indispensable item for mountain people, which help in coping with various external shocks, protects from cold, hot, and precipitation. I hope my lecture was useful for you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kulipa Akhmatova, for a wonderful presentation telling us the importance of yak and horse in Kyrgyzstan as a sustainable, one of those sustainable livelihood options for centuries, and the challenges of present day from very holistic perspective, not only for the ecology, but also for culture and the passing on of traditional knowledge.